Okay, you abstracts. Here is one of my favorite sections from the winner of the first annual Slept On Award, you know, Feng Shui me, for me from last year. As I explained in my Favorites of 2023 video, I had been kind of familiar with the human abstract, but for some reason I hadn't listened to Digital Veil. And then I started being for real, which I think everyone should be for freaking real whenever possible, by the way. And I fell in love with this album last year. And I knew I wanted to talk about it for Hot Harmony Summer, which is still going on. It will not end until I say it's over, also, by the way. So I was like, cool, I'll talk about neoclassical harmony in the intro to Horizon to Zenith. But then it turns out that this was really tricky to play, and it has taken weeks to get it under my fingers. But here we are, we've made it to this point together. So yeah, this riff was surprisingly hard to play. It's not insanely fast, but it's very finger unfriendly. It has a lot of awkward string skipping in the first little bit. And some of my least favorite sweeping shapes that involve rolling with your pinky and ring finger, including a weird awkward leap down to the bottom string from the top. And in the rhythm part, there are these horrendous perfect fourth hammer-on stretches low on the fretboard that's like so far that I tried to find a bunch of different ways to avoid, and I couldn't find anything that I liked better, sadly. So yeah, this section has some kind of hidden physical difficulty that wasn't apparent to me just from listening, and it took a while to get this section clean. And life is endlessly busy. Wah, wah, wah. I'm only 4 years old after all. But I've eventually made it to this point where I am going to play both guitar parts clean enough for this channel, and I'm going to tell you a thing or two about what it really means to borrow the spirit of classical harmony, and we're going to have a good time doing it. So big picture, the section that I'm talking about is a cool short introduction section where the main melody of the song, which is pretty simple and minor and cool, gets passed between the two guitars, and then there's some more harmonic flurries leading to a big cadence and the start of the verse. Zooming in, the lead guitar part starts with this cool string skipping constant motion line, where the string skipping comes from doubling the main melody on lower strings and filling in the rest of the 16th notes with these non-repeating arpeggios. When you hear this part on its own, it makes this compound melody where it sounds like you're hearing two melodies in different registers played at the same time by the same guitar. Next, the lead guitar gets the main melody briefly before moving into a 5-string sweeping section. Then we get this short hocket, or trading thing between the two guitars, one more flurry of sweeping, this time on 3 strings for the lead, and a final descent back into the tonic. The rhythm guitar part complements this, starting by playing a palm-muted, accenty version of the melody. Then moving into this extended section with this 2-note figuration pattern under both the melody and the sweeps in the lead part. And then it participates in the hocket and joins in for the sweeps and final descent. Here are the two guitar parts together slow. So this is definitely a tonal section in the sense that we start and end on the same chord, D minor, the tonic, which feels like home, and all of the other pitches we hear relate to this tonic along familiar paths. And in particular, they're the paths that are patterned off of European music from the mid-17th to mid-19th century. This style is often called neoclassical because it follows those classical patterns, but it was written by Keanu Reeves. But all seriousness aside, there are a lot of things that are classical about the way the notes hang together. The first section with the compound melody clearly follows the classic functional triangle, moving from the tonic to a predominant, which is the minor 4 chord in this case, then to the dominant, which is the 5 chord, and then back to the 1 chord. They also make conspicuous use of a Neapolitan chord in the last arpeggio flurry, which is the major chord on flat 2. So in this case, it is an E flat major chord in the key of D minor, and this functions as a predominant. The Neapolitan chord has this kind of cool, antique, unsettling sound. And here they even use it with the third of the chord in the bass, which is the super classical way to do it. And as a side note, I know for sure that at least one place that the band had heard a Neapolitan chord before this was in Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, because they did a very cool metal cover of all 3 movements of that. Remember that? And then also in the first half of the sweeping section, we have a descending 5th sequence, which is another pretty characteristically classical thing to do with chords, where you keep moving through the diatonic chords, the chords in the scale, at a specific interval. But the more subtle classical use of harmony in this short bundle of riffs is the way that they are clearly thinking in layers and sometimes following voice leading more than vertical chords. You can hear this thinking in layers throughout in the way that they pass the melody around between the 2 guitar parts and switch back and forth between melody and accompaniment roles pretty fluidly. is kind of an orchestral way of thinking about using two guitarists. As a side note, it's also very classical the way that it is so non-repetitive, that we don't like just sit on any one riff. We're always shifting things. But the most extreme version of this thinking in layers happens during the second half of the long 5-string sweeping section, where the lower guitar part plays this relentless shifting pedal point thing under the equally shifting and relentless sweeping arpeggios. If we boil this whole section down to vertical chords and Roman numerals, we get this kind of confusing, seemingly non-functional thing. But the thing about harmonic analysis is that thinking vertically can only get you so far. If we insist on labeling each different vertical chord here, we get a B-flat dominant 7 chord that doesn't resolve anywhere, weird non-idiomatic second inversion 1 chords, a non-resolving half diminished 7th chord, and the tonic chord at the end has a minor 7th in it. And none of these things are easy to match to patterns in classical harmony. So I guess we're screwed and harmony is a lie. Actually, I'm just kidding. You don't have to worry, because we can think about this in a different way. We have a mostly static upper voice arpeggio which stays still and creates tension against a very long ascending chromatic line from F all the way up to D, which is a cool way of creating tension with two independent lines. The starting and ending points are clear, and the motion in between is clear, and it's fine if the string of individual resultant harmonies can't be found in harmony textbooks. There are a fair number of metal bands that will cop specific chords or patterns of chords from classical and Baroque and Romantic music. But this sort of multi-voice, voice-leading focused writing, where the two guitars contribute relatively independent but interlocking things to the harmony instead of doubling each other, is much rarer. Textures like this in the human abstract music make it clear how deep their engagement with these much older traditions goes. Which, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing automatically better about classical music, but anyone being a real big nerd about music is pretty cool in my book. Alright, enough yapping. Here is the full thing with the recording, which feels kind of anticlimactic considering how many hours of practice it took. Maybe someday I'll write a short, focused video that I can produce in less than a month. Kind of doubt it at this point, though. Thanks for sticking with me. Go listen to all of this album and Nocturne and that cool cover of the Moonlight Sonata. See ya.